AI, it's like the word of the decade, right? Everyone's talking about it. But what's really fascinating to me is how this technology could reshape entire continents, and Africa is really stepping up to the plate here.
It really is remarkable when you think about the sheer scale of ambition. We're talking about a continent aiming to double its entire economy using AI by 2035.
Double, you said. That's a pretty bold goal.
It is. They're looking at a GDP of $6 trillion, and they see AI as a key driver of that growth.
6 trillion, wow. So where do they even begin? What areas are they focusing on?
Well, they're targeting sectors that are crucial for any developing region: agriculture, healthcare, education. Think about the impact AI could have in those areas.
Yeah, those are some pretty universal needs. Everyone needs food, healthcare, education, right?
Yeah.
Makes sense. So they're aiming big, but where are we getting all this info? What are our sources for this deep dive?
We're tapping into a couple of great sources today. First, we've got Willy Seyama's insights. He's the CEO of a marketing agency, very in tune with these trends, and he had a really insightful LinkedIn article about this.
Okay, and I actually saw that article. It was a great read. What else?
We're also looking at the Continental Artificial Intelligence Strategy, which lays out, well, the whole strategy.
A whole document dedicated to AI strategy? They're serious about this, huh?
They definitely seem to be. But, like with any ambitious plan, there are some pretty big obstacles to consider.
That's what I'm interested in, the but. What are the challenges here? What are the potential roadblocks on this road to AI revolution in Africa?
Well, one of the biggest challenges revolves around something we hear a lot about these days: data, or more specifically, who owns it.
Right. Data is power. So how does that play into the African AI scene?
Well, here's the thing. For AI to really thrive, it needs data, massive amounts of it. And right now, Africa only houses about 1% of the world's data centers.
1%. Seriously, that's a tiny fraction.
It is. And that means a lot of the data generated in Africa is being processed and stored elsewhere.
So they're almost starting from behind, in a way.
In some ways, yes. And to make matters even more complicated, a third of those African data centers are concentrated in just one country, South Africa.
Interesting. So even within the continent, there's this imbalance in data infrastructure.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got this data bottleneck. It's like a major speed bump on their AI highway.
It is. And it's not just about the infrastructure either.
What else then? What else makes this data ownership issue so tricky?
Well, think about it. Whoever controls the data, they control the insights that are derived from that data.
Right, so it's not just about storing information, it's about who benefits from it.
Exactly. And those benefits can be massive. We're talking economic advantages, technological advancements.
So if Africa isn't in control of its own data, it could end up lagging behind in the AI race.
That's the risk. They could become dependent on other countries for AI technology instead of developing their own.
Which would be a huge setback.
Exactly. It's about sovereignty, in a way, data sovereignty. It's about who gets to shape the future.
And speaking of shaping the future, let's talk about the financial side of this AI revolution, because developing all this cutting-edge technology can't be cheap.
You're absolutely right. It's a significant financial hurdle. And to give you a sense of just how expensive it can be, consider this. Building a single AI supercomputer campus, like the one Microsoft and OpenAI are collaborating on.
You mean that Stargate project? I read about that. It sounds intense.
It is. It's state-of-the-art. And the estimated cost for that one facility is around $100 billion.
$100 billion for one building. That's more than the GDP of some countries.
It is. It's roughly equivalent to the entire GDP of Kenya, or about a quarter of South Africa's GDP, just to put it into perspective.
So yeah, perspective definitely puts things into perspective. No wonder people like Eric Schmidt, that former Google CEO, said that AI is a rich country's game.
It's a statement that's hard to argue with when you look at those numbers.
It's daunting, right? But it also makes you wonder if there are alternative approaches. Maybe instead of trying to compete head-to-head with these AI giants, maybe Africa needs to find its niche.
That's a really interesting idea, and it aligns with what we were saying earlier about data ownership and control.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not about building massive data centers and supercomputer campuses.
Maybe it's about focusing on specific areas where they can excel, areas where they already have a competitive advantage.
Exactly. It's about playing to your strengths, finding those niches where you can really make a difference.
Okay, so we've talked about the data hurdle, the financial aspect. What other obstacles are we looking at here?
Well, there's one that's crucial but often overlooked: the skills gap. It's one thing to have the technology and the data, but you need the people who can actually use it.
That's right.
Yeah.
You can have the most advanced AI system in the world, but if nobody knows how to operate it or interpret the results, it's useless.
It's like having a spaceship but no trained astronauts. You're not going anywhere.
Exactly. So how big of a problem is this skills gap in Africa?
It's significant, and it presents a kind of chicken and egg dilemma. You need a skilled workforce to develop and implement AI solutions. But attracting those skilled workers often requires a thriving AI industry already in place.
So which comes first, the skilled workers or the AI industry?
It's a tough question,
Yeah.
and there's no easy answer. But one thing is clear. Investment in education and training is absolutely crucial.
So it's about equipping people with the right skills for this new AI-powered world.
Exactly. And it's not just about technical skills either. It's about fostering critical thinking, problem solving, the ability to adapt to this rapidly changing technological landscape.
Because AI isn't just about coding. It's about understanding how those algorithms can be applied to real-world problems.
Absolutely. It's about bridging the gap between theory and practice, between the technology itself and the people it's meant to serve.
I remember reading a report recently, the State of Marketing AI report. It highlighted how a lot of companies, even those with resources, are hesitant to fully embrace AI because they simply don't have the employees with the right skills.
That's a common concern.
Yeah.
And it underscores the urgency of addressing the skills gap. We need to make sure people are prepared for these new opportunities.
So it sounds like a multi-pronged approach is needed. Governments need to prioritize AI education. Universities need to adapt their curriculums.
And private companies need to step up as well. They can offer training programs, apprenticeships, opportunities for people to develop these in-demand skills.
It's a collective effort for sure. Okay, so we've got the data challenge, the financial hurdle, the skills gap. Anything else?
Oh, there's one more big one.
Yeah.
And it's something that's fundamental to participating in a digital economy. Internet access.
Right, because even if you have the skills and the knowledge, if you can't get online, none of it really matters.
Exactly. And unfortunately, internet accessibility is still a major challenge in many parts of Africa.
We saw some pretty stark numbers while we were preparing for this episode. Africa's average internet penetration rate is around 45%, but those numbers can be deceiving.
They are, because you have countries like Morocco with a 91% penetration rate, which is fantastic. But then you have Ethiopia, where it's only 19%. That's a huge disparity.
It is. It's like having different parts of the continent operating in different technological eras.
Exactly. And that digital divide has huge implications for AI adoption. It's not just about access to information. It's about access to opportunity. It's about ensuring that everyone, regardless of where they live, has a chance to participate in this technological revolution.
It's about leveling the playing field, making sure that everyone has a chance to benefit from these advancements.
Precisely. And that requires a multifaceted approach. Investment in infrastructure is crucial, but we also need to focus on digital literacy programs, empowering people to use technology effectively.
So it's not enough to just provide access. You also need to provide the tools and the knowledge to navigate the digital world.
Exactly. It's about creating an environment where everyone can thrive in this new digital age.
Okay, so we've laid out some pretty significant challenges here. Data ownership, the financial hurdles, the skills gap, and now internet access. It's a lot to overcome.
It is. It's a steep climb,
Yeah.
but there's also a sense of optimism, a belief that Africa can find its own path in the AI landscape.
That's what we need to explore now.
Right.
The potential solutions. How do we turn these challenges into opportunities? So how do we get there? It feels like we've spent this whole deep dive talking about obstacles, like climbing a mountain. Now we need to find the trail to the summit, right? How does Africa actually overcome these challenges and achieve its AI ambitions?
Well, it's important to remember that Africa is a vast continent with a ton of diversity. What works in one country might not work in another, so there's no magic bullet here.
Right, so a tailored approach is key. But are there any common threads, any general strategies that could help guide these different nations?
Definitely. And collaboration is a big one. I mean, Seyama, remember that LinkedIn article we mentioned? He really emphasizes this idea of intra-Africa collaboration.
Working together, sharing resources.
Exactly. Imagine a scenario where one nation, maybe they're strong in agricultural AI, they've developed algorithms to optimize crop yields, predict droughts. They could then share that knowledge with another country that's maybe strong in mobile technology.
Interesting.
And together, they create incredibly powerful tools that are specifically designed for farmers across the entire continent.
So it's about leveraging each other's strength, finding those areas of expertise and then amplifying them through collaboration.
Exactly. And it helps address those issues we talked about earlier. Limited resources, that skills gap. By working together, they can overcome some of those hurdles.
It's a win-win. So collaboration within Africa is key. But what about outside help? We talked about Eric Schmidt's point about global partnerships.
Right, because let's face it, AI development requires resources, expertise, and that's where partnerships with more developed nations can play a crucial role.
But it needs to be done right. No more of that just throwing money at the problem.
Absolutely. We're talking about responsible investment here. Think tech companies establishing research labs in Africa, providing training programs, supporting local talent.
Okay, so it's about empowerment, not just handouts, helping African nations build their own AI capacity.
Precisely. It's about a more equitable AI landscape, one where everyone has a seat at the table.
I love that, an equitable AI landscape. This has been an incredible deep dive, don't you think? We've covered so much ground, from the economic potential to the data dilemma, the skills gap, internet access challenges. It's a lot to take in, but also incredibly inspiring.
It really is. It's complex, it's challenging, but there's a palpable sense of optimism. Africa has this incredible opportunity to not just adopt AI, but to shape its development, to make it their own.
To make it work for them, and that is something to be excited about.
It absolutely is.
Well, on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive into Africa's AI ambitions. We've thrown a lot of information your way, but now it's time for you to dive deeper. Imagine you were advising an African nation on its AI strategy. What would your top priority be? Food for thought. Thanks for joining us on this journey. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.